I have been to 4 states, so if I've read more than 4 books, I've won. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I'm going to set myself a little challenge. I want to see how many states in the US I have read a book set in. I also want to see if it's more than the amount of states that I have been to. So I've been to 4 states already. I've been to New York, New Jersey, Nevada, and Arizona. I went to New York on a family holiday when I was 15 or 16. We were there for like a couple of days just shopping and sightseeing. We crossed the border into New Jersey one of those days and went to the Woodbury Common shopping mall. A couple of years ago on a work trip, I went to Las Vegas with the company that I was working with, and we went to the Grand Canyon one of those days, which is in Arizona. There's 4 books read, and there's 50 states. I kind of like those odds. I've read a lot of books. I kind of like those odds. But I feel like this would have gone a whole lot better if I was actually living in the US and had access to books set across the whole thing. The idea for this video actually came to me from 2 different booktubers. One of the booktubers from whom I got this idea was Shelby from Grace with Books, who put up a video recently where she said that she was really happy to read a book that was set in her home state of Maryland because she doesn't really see Maryland in books very much. The second booktuber that I got this idea from is Heather from Bookables, and she put up a video recently where she said that she really likes reading books that are set in the state of Alaska. And then I kind of thought to myself, I don't think I've ever read a book that is set in Alaska. But then I went further and I was like, well, how many states have I read a book set in? Have I read a book that's set in Delaware? Have I read a book that's set in Connecticut? So I printed out a little list and we're going to find out how many I can tick off. California. The first state that I have read a book set in is California. And the book that I have read set in California is one of the I Heart series. It's I Heart Hollywood by Lindsay Kelk. This is the second book in the series, and it follows Angela Clark, who has just moved to the US. She's living in New York, and now she is working for a gossip and blogging magazine. So her boss sends her to Hollywood to interview a really famous actor who's got a movie coming out soon. And Angela starts really taking a shine to him, and he starts really taking a shine to Angela. So there is a kind of a will they, won't they running throughout the book. I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was one of the better books of the series. Connecticut. There was only one book that came to mind for Connecticut, and that is an entire series. That is the Babysitter's Club series by Anne M. Martin. I have talked about that on my channel several times before, but just in case you've missed any of those videos, it's about 7 teenagers who are like 11, 12, 13 during the books. They set up a babysitting business for the parents in their community of Stony Brook, which is a fictional town in Connecticut. And they set up a babysitting business where parents can reach them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5:30 until 6, and they can book out a babysitter if they need it over the coming weeks. There's like 130 books in the whole series, and I have read the vast majority of them, but there are still some that I need to get to. However, the majority of them are set in Connecticut, even though there are some that are set in like New York when it's a Stacy book, or California when it's a Dawn book. Florida. A couple of years ago, I read a proof copy, I think it was a proof copy at the time, of My Name is Anna by Lizzie Baker. And it was her debut novel, and it was about a girl called Anna who lives in Florida, and her mother is very God-fearing and very strict. She's had a really repressive childhood. She hasn't really been allowed to go anywhere, to do anything. She has got a boyfriend, but I think it's because he is also a member of her church, so her mother approves of him. But it's Anna's 18th birthday, and to celebrate, she and her boyfriend go out to an amusement park in Florida in their like local area. And it also features a girl called Rosie, whose sister Emily went missing when Rosie was really young, about 15 years ago. And the media circus about Emily's disappearance is starting up again. So Rosie is kind of trying to find her own clues about how her sister, who she barely remembers, went missing in the first place. There are, of course, ways that their story is intertwined, but I was not prepared for the ending that it was going to have. Georgia. There are so many books set in Atlanta alone that I could have ticked off for this, but the one that came to my mind immediately was Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda by Becky Albertalli. It was one of the best books that I read in 2018. I completely sprinted through it. And I watched the movie adaptation when that came out. I think it was late 2018, early 2019. I loved that as well. Went to the cinema and cried my eyes out. I don't think that I need to give you a big introduction to what Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda is about, because it's so well known throughout BookTube. Just in case you haven't heard of it, it's about Simon, who is a closeted gay guy, and he is messaging with a guy in his school who goes by the name of Blue. It's all over internet and email and stuff, but they don't give out any identification about themselves. But one of the guys in their class, called Martin, has figured out all the emails and is threatening to reveal their secret.
Hawaii.
I actually just recently finished The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. That is about a woman called Olive, whose twin sister Amy is one of the luckiest people in the world. Like, she could just click her fingers and win a raffle. Amy has recently gotten married, but at the wedding reception they serve shellfish, to which Olive is allergic, so she doesn't eat any, and the groom's brother Ethan also doesn't eat any because he doesn't like buffets. So they're the only two people at this whole thing who don't get food poisoning. Amy is then not able to go on her honeymoon. Amy and her husband Dean aren't able to go on their honeymoon anymore because they are violently ill. So Olive goes impersonating her twin sister, and Dean's brother Ethan goes on the honeymoon too. But Olive and Ethan absolutely hate each other. So they go on the honeymoon to Maui in Hawaii, and it is a big enemies to lovers trope. There is one scene in this book that you are going to need to cool yourself down after reading. That's all I'm going to say.
Illinois.
I read Love, Hate and Other Filters by Samira Ahmed when it came out in 2017. I think it was 2017. And then I completely forgot what it was about. I have a feeling that it's about Muslim. It has got Muslim rep in it. But I'm really shaky on what the details of the story actually are. But yes, I have ticked off Illinois.
Indiana.
One of the most popular, well-known, BookTube ubiquitous books that's set in Indiana is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I think every booktuber has read this at least once, so I barely need to tell you what it's about. But Indiana's ticked off.
Massachusetts.
To tick off Massachusetts, I have read Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. I didn't really enjoy this one. It's set in a reverse chronological order. So you start at the end, and then there's a woman that goes missing. I think her name is Imogen. She goes missing, and you find out how she went missing, why, what happened in the lead up to her disappearance, all this kind of stuff. I didn't really enjoy it. I think I just didn't gel with the whole way that it was told in reverse linear order, because you already know quite a lot of what is about to happen, and then it just feels kind of meh.
Michigan.
I have read Duff by Cody Keplinger, and this is about Bianca, who is the Duff, which is the designated ugly fat friend of her group, which I hate. By the way, I hate that title. But Bianca is in a kind of a secret relationship with a guy called Wesley, who's one of the most popular guys in her school. And she starts to really fall for him, and she starts telling him some secret stuff about her life, and then chaos kind of ensues.
Missouri.
For Missouri, I have read Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I remember really, really liking it. I do remember what the book is about, and I also remember thinking that Amy Dunn is a fucking sociopath. Also, the film is really, really good, but it's not something you should watch on a first date. Trust me on that one.
Nebraska.
There are actually quite a lot of books that are set in Nebraska, but one that I have picked out for this is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And I know that Rainbow Rowell is kind of a problematic fave, but I have read and really enjoyed Fangirl. It is about Kath and Ren, who are twin sisters who go to university in Lincoln in Nebraska. I really liked Kath. I really liked how she kind of comes out of her shell quite a lot throughout the book, how you experience her growing up, how you experience her kind of loosening the grip that she has on her sister, and how much she needs to have her sister in her life for her to function. And I also really liked the fan fiction area of the books. And if you haven't read the Simon Snow books yet, like the Carrying On and Wayward Son books, this is the origin story.
Nevada.
For Nevada, we are going back to the iHeart series, and this time it is iHeart Vegas. And this is the fourth book of the series, I'm pretty sure. As you can tell from the title, this is set in the city of Las Vegas. I don't think that Angela goes there on an assignment for work. I think she just goes there with her friend Jenny on a girls' weekend. But I read this after I had been to Las Vegas, and I was going through the whole book going, I've been there, I've seen that, I've done this. So yeah, I've been to Nevada and I've read a book in Nevada.
New Hampshire.
Quite a lot of books that Jodi Picoult writes are set in New Hampshire, which I didn't know until I went to research this. So I kind of had my pick of the lot for this, because I've read quite a lot of Jodi Picoult books. But instead for this, I went for The Pact. The Pact is about two teenagers in a relationship called Chris and Emily, and they have made a suicide pact together, but one of them survives and one of them doesn't. And it's kind of about how their families are coping with the loss of a child, grieving the loss of a child, while also seeing the one who did survive this, walking around town the whole time. It's really, really heart-wrenching, and I haven't read it in a really long time, but I don't think it's one that I'm going to be able to reread.
New Jersey.
Once again, back to the Babysitters Club. Boy Crazy Stacy is the 8th book in the series, and it is set on a beach in New Jersey. So Mallory Pike is one of the babysitters, but her family has 8 kids. And for every babysitting job, there are 2 babysitters who go. But Stacy and Marianne are employed as mother's helpers for a week's holiday in New Jersey, just so that their parents can go out and do parent stuff and just be adults without their kids around for a while. So it's kind of about what they do while they're in New Jersey when they're going to the beach and they meet guys there. It's a good story because Marianne and Stacy don't really get along very well, and they don't really have a lot of screen time when they're in other books together. So this was a really nice time to see how opposites can attract in that kind of a way.
New Mexico.
Love Letters to the Dead by Ava Delario is about a young girl in an English class who has an assignment to write a letter to somebody who is either dead or alive. So she decides to write letters to all of these dead people, like Kurt Cobain, like Marie Curie, and just asking them questions about what she should do in her life at this moment in time, or how should she deal with the situation that they might have gone through at the same time. It is really heart-wrenching, and it is a really great book.
New York.
There are hundreds of books set in New York. I could have picked so many, but for this, I went for The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. It is one of my favorite books from when I was a teenager. It's about Mia, who discovers when she's 14 that she is the heir to the Genovian throne, which is a principality on the south coast of Europe. So it goes through Mia's life discovering that she is a princess. It goes through her life in high school, and she also goes through princess lessons with her grandmother in the afternoons, just so that she can learn how that she should perform in court, how she should perform in front of people, how she should run a country, basically. I adore The Princess Diaries. It is one of my favorite book series of all time. But if you want to learn more about the book series, I'm going to link a video down below where Emma from Drinking by My Shelf and her sister did a 24-hour readathon where they read all 10 books and discussed them. It is so good.
North Carolina.
I have got some books from North Carolina on my TBR, but I've also got one read, and that is The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. I really like the film. And I think the problem is that I watched the film before I read the book and then just couldn't dissociate the two, because I really did not like that book at all. Don't come for me, okay?
Ohio.
My book club here in Germany read Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng last year. We had some kind of mixed feelings on it, but I actually quite liked it. So Everything I Never Told You is about a family who live in Ohio, and one of their daughters has gone missing, and her body is actually found in the lake one morning. And so it's about trying to discover what was this girl like, because it turns out that she is a completely different person to who her parents had thought that she was. And her brother is hell-bent on finding out what happened to her, because he doesn't think that her death was an accident.
Oregon.
I read The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed last year, and now I have no idea what it's about. I have a feeling it's about 3 girls from a kind of a marginalized background who are kind of not really the most popular girls in their school, and they come together after the assault of a classmate to call out sexual assault, misogyny, that kind of a behavior. I have a feeling that that's what it's about. I really enjoyed it, so maybe I should reread that book and take Oregon off twice.
Pennsylvania.
I have read a couple of books set in Pennsylvania, but one that I really enjoyed is Plain Truth by Jodi Picoult. It's set on an Amish farm, so that kind of gives you a hint that it's a Pennsylvania setting. But it's about a young Amish girl called Katie who has given birth to a child, and the child has died really soon after its birth. And there's a whole conspiracy that the baby has actually been murdered, and they're trying to find out what happens to the baby.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island is another Jodi Picoult book, and it's one of her most popular, and it's one that absolutely everybody will associate with Jodi Picoult. That is My Sister's Keeper. I think everybody kind of knows what My Sister's Keeper is about. Everybody who hasn't read the book has at least seen the film. But it's about two sisters called Anna and Kate. Kate has been diagnosed with cancer, and the best way that they can kind of suppress the cancer, or at least try to cure it, is for her parents to give birth to another child who has been genetically created so that her genes will match up, her blood type will match up with Kate, and that they can cure her this way. So Anna is born, and she has very little authority over her body. And when it comes to her 13th birthday, Anna has decided that she's had enough and she wants medical emancipation from her parents.
Vermont.
A Jodi Picoult hat trick! This one is House Rules, and it's a young boy called Jacob who has Asperger's. There are a lot of crimes that are being committed in the area where he lives, and people are very sure that he is behind all of them. So his mother is trying to fight through the courts for that to be proven wrong.
Virginia.
One of my favorite book series of all time is set in Virginia, and that is the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series by Jenny Han. You find out really that it's set in Virginia in the third book because Lara Jean is looking for colleges to go to, and she has sent an application to the University of Virginia, which is really close to where she lives. She actually ends up being accepted somewhere else.
Washington State.
I spent ages trying to think of a book that I have read that's set in Washington State, and then it hit me like a train. Twilight. I've read Twilight and I've read Eclipse. I don't think I've read New Moon, and I don't think I've read Breaking Dawn. Have I got those mixed up? Is it Twilight, New Moon, Breaking Dawn, Eclipse? Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn. I've read the first two and I haven't read the last two. That's what I'm trying to say. And I probably won't be reading Midnight Sun when it comes out. Sorry, not sorry.
Washington, D.C.
As an extra, I'm also going to include Washington, D.C. So I have read a book that's set in Washington, D.C., and that is All American Girl by Meg Cabot. It's probably one of her lesser known books, but it was one of my favorites when I was growing up. So it's about a girl called Sam who saves the life of the president of the USA during an assassination attempt. And then she starts getting really friendly with his son, and she has like loads of press events that she has to go to. And there are 2 books in the series, and I really, really enjoy both of them. And also, I remember during the week that I borrowed the second book from my friend 15 years ago and still haven't given it back because now I don't know where it is. Okay, so that's all of the states that I have read a book in. Let's see where we are. '24 plus DC, so 24 states. That's 26.
Quick maths.
That I haven't read a book from. Maybe that should be a little TBR for the next however long, that I'm going to try and read a book from all of the 26 states that I haven't listed in this one. If you take this challenge, please do let me know. Please send me on your links because I would love to see what you have answered. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now get on out of here.